Good afternoon. We're joined today by Denis Hickie, ex-Irish Rugby International. Afternoon, Dennis.
Afternoon.
What have you been doing, Dennis? You retired from rugby. You had a very high profile end to your career. What have you been doing since 2007?
I've done a lot of different things, which has been great. I've travelled a lot, spent a lot of time in South America. I spent a bit of time in parts of Europe, in New York. I enjoy just travelling, getting away from rugby and rugby related things. I worked then full time in a lobby group, Citizens Lobby Group Ireland for Europe, for the second Lisbon Treaty referendum, and that took me up to around November last year. And since then, I've been doing various different things. I'm involved in a spoken word festival called Minefield, which is going to be on the May Bank Holiday weekend of this year, which is going to take in conversational, lots of different people talking about different subjects: art, architecture, politics, sport. And we're going to have a host of different people involved in that, so that should be good.
Is that the first year it's been run?
Yeah, it's the first year pilot run. It's going to be run in the Pod Complex in here in Dublin and around Harcourt Street. So.
And is it going to bring people in from all around Europe, or?
Yeah, we've lots of different people. We've different people of different varying sorts of quality, and it's going to be. We've got Alistair Campbell is going to curate one of the sports teams. We're going to be talking about sport ethics and sport. John Snow is going to come over. John Pilger hopefully will be there. We have a lot of poetry, architecture, art and stuff. So we're still working on completing the lineup. The lineup is hopefully going to be pretty good.
So unusually for an elite athlete, you have a passion for art and you also have a passion for music. You managed to keep it quite quiet when you were performing as a sports person. Do you get to express that side of your personality more now?
Well, I do a bit privately. I don't. There's no reason for me to be expressing it publicly unless I'm asked. So I just I don't think it's not much different. I suppose to lots of different people. I suppose people just find it unusual because there's an association, I think, from olden days maybe that sports people are interested in nothing but sport. But I think you'll find guys when they're locked away doing something, 6 or 7 hours a day, it's the last thing they think about, and they like to get themselves involved in a different variety of interests. Mine just happen to be things like architecture, art, or music.
And would you do that for pleasure now, in your own spare time?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and I do that anyway. So yeah, it's something I've always been interested in.
And in music, then, you in recent years you've stood in for our good friend Jenny Houston on 2FM, and tell us about your interest in music.
My interest in music is it's a very general interest. The music scene is very dynamic and it's obviously changing. If you kind of drop out of it for a month or two, you miss about 5 or 6 new bands that come on the scene. So it's very dynamic. I'm interested the way it's changed so much, and the way iTunes has an online music purchases has changed the industry, and I'm aware of obviously that the music industry, certainly for artists, is becoming more and more difficult, and as the number of record companies and opportunities shrink, it must be a very tough environment for them to work in. But it's as a consumer, it's a different sort of advantage.
Who are you listening to now, or what Irish bands do you like?
I've been, I like. I listen to a lot of different bands, really, not just Irish bands. I go through phases of listening to, I suppose, what is contemporary music at the time. So bands like Temper Trap are getting a lot of airplay at the moment, and I'm listening to Air's new album. But I also listen to a lot of old stuff. I'm having a resurgence in 1970s Rolling Stones records for some reason at the moment. So I've kind of changed a lot, and that's a good thing about music. You can revisit it at any stage.
I read an interview you did where you said most of the people you like are dead.
Yeah, that was a while ago. Yeah. Unfortunately, I did, but it's that's the good thing about music. Your favourites can change from time to time, and there's a lot of good music out there. There's a lot of good music in Ireland, so there's never a shortage of things to go to. Certainly in Dublin. Dublin's pretty good for live music. We're pretty lucky compared to a lot of other countries, and it seems to be well supported.
It must be good as an amateur enthusiast to get a live microphone and a couple of hours to play whatever you feel like.
Absolutely, yeah, it's fantastic, and I'm in no standard or no way would be considered anything like a DJ or anything like that. It's just to be able to sit in, as you say, sit in a studio and be able to press 2 buttons and change CDs. That's about the height of my talents. But yeah, it's very nice to be able to do that. And if I wasn't doing it in the studio, I'd probably just do it at home anyway. So.
So you were saying to me off camera before we started that you're a news junkie and that you consume news in lots of different ways. Tell us what you like and what you don't like and what you tune into.
Well, I'm particularly obsessed at the moment with the polarization of media and news in the States, in the US, certainly the political polarization of news. The Fox News network and their ongoing battle with MSNBC. I find fascinating.
What side of the argument do you fall down on?
Well, I think most Irish people would tend to veer towards maybe the more liberal media. But I'm certainly would be aware of my leanings, so I'm not a total slave to either side. I find Sarah Palin is now working away on Fox News as a contributor, obviously with an eye to upskilling her knowledge on all sorts of issues, and she's obviously getting a forum for herself on the various shows.
What do you think of her? My own view is that she's whatever you think of her politics, she's a fantastic communicator.
Well, I don't think she's a particularly fantastic communicator. She's a populist, and I don't populism. I think is actually, it's as dangerous as elitism. Both kind of trains of thought are founded on division of class and just in two different ways, and I don't think she's a particularly good communicator at all. She's been educating herself, and it's interesting to see her progression to becoming better than she was. But as she admitted on one of her shows on Fox recently, she gets a briefing now once a week from a group of people, probably in Washington, I think she says, and so she's consciously building up her knowledge. So then she's got a tie-in now to Fox, so they give her a forum every week to say what she's learned, and so it increases her appearance as somebody who's very well informed, or who's better informed than she has been. And between now and the next run for the general election, I'm sure she'll be continuing doing that. It's very interesting just to see the whole process develop, and to see the way the strategy she's obviously developed around, as I said, not only she's got a good form and she's got the information now that she didn't perhaps have prior to her ill-fated run as a vice presidential candidate, but as a communicator, she's an unusual style. I don't know how effective it is in terms of delivering a message, delivering a cohesive message, a coherent message, but she's as you said, she's very capable, and I think in a year's time should be better. But it's fascinating just to see it.
Because we were watching her on Jane Leno just this morning online.
Yeah, well there you go. Yeah, it's all obviously part of the strategy. She's got mapped out between now and then. But it is very interesting to see the way that the media is actually much more so than anywhere else in the world. You have seen it in newspapers, I suppose, in the past. Certainly in Britain, less so here. And maybe in the States as well, where newspapers or media outlets like, for example, Fox News is a right-wing network, and that's all its anchors are right-wing, and that's what it puts out. And you have on the other side, CNN, BBC.
And do you think Middle America is clever enough to see that for what it is?
Middle America might be, yeah, but Middle America is probably dwindling, and certainly as the countries, like anything, as a country gets harder, gets in a tougher economic state, Middle America shrinks, and it becomes more polarized. You can become one side or the other. It'll only be seen if it's disseminated by the next election, but it's certainly fascinating, and when you see something like that happening in the States, it can happen anywhere. But it has. You'd have to say, it's happened in newspapers in Britain for years, with different newspapers from different stables, Rothermere stables or Murdoch stables, or the independent stables taking up different views and taking a stance, and it must be very interesting for people within that industry to work within I presume their own professional judgment, but however having to subscribe to parameters that whether are defined or maybe a bit more blurry, but definitely people have a line that a particular outlet takes, and you have to sign on to it. I just find it very interesting to see it developing that, and I often wonder, as a consumer of media, from a journalist point of view, where does the principle of reporting an event or making a slant on it, where does that blur, and where does one become the other? I think it's very interesting.